The Rough Country 2.5-inch suspension lift with coils and brackets but without shocks is for those of you that have a 4-door 2007 and up JK that are looking for an inexpensive starter lift kit. This is going to be a lift that will allow you to easily fit a set of 33-inch tires on your JK. You can probably squeeze a set of 35s under your JK as well, especially if you're somebody who's staying off-road and isn't looking for a ton of articulation. And if you're looking to go smaller than 33s, maybe a set of 31s, 2.5 inches is a little bit more than you're going to need. So again, 33s are right where I'd like you to be for a 2.5-inch lift kit. Now, even though this is a simple lift kit, there aren't a ton of components included, as you can see by what's on the table here. It is still going to be a 2 out of 3 wrench installation. It's still going to take you 2 to 3 hours depending on the tools that you have at your disposal, because even though this doesn't include a lot of components, you still have to do a lot of the same work you would have to do if you had more components going into your lift kit. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second here. So this is going to be, like I said, a basic starter lift kit. This isn't going to include shocks. It's not going to include track bar brackets, longer brake lines. It's not going to include a lot of those other components that you would want or need in your lift kit in order to make it perform at the absolute top when you're off-road. This is going to give you more room to fit a set of 33s and allow you to certainly go off-road, but if you're looking for even more performance, you are going to want to add some components and change some components up as you go. But again, as a starter kit, I really like this because it's a way to get your Jeep lifted inexpensively, get off-road, start using your vehicle, and then as you use it, you can say, maybe I'll change out the shocks now, maybe I want to change out those track bars, maybe I'm going to add a set of adjustable control arms and kind of build the lift as you go. So because this is a more starter basic lift kit, this is going to be much less expensive than a lot of the other kits out there as well. So the components included in this kit are what you see in front of me. You're going to have your 4 coil springs. They're going to give you that 2.5 inches of lift, that higher ride height. Over here, you're going to have your shock brackets for both the front and the rear of the Jeep. And that's going to allow you to use those factory shocks by essentially making those factory shocks longer to accommodate the 2.5 inches of lift. Now, the downside, if you want to call it that, of a shock bracket is that you are going to get to full compression of your shock sooner than you would with another shock that's designed specifically for 2.5 inches of lift. And if you fully compress the shock, you can damage the shock. So while this kit is going to work just fine on your Jeep right out of the box with just what it includes, you are going to want to flex out the suspension, check to make sure that your shock isn't coming into full compression before your bump stops are stopping it from doing so. If your shock can fully compress with the factory bump stops, you're probably going to want to look into some factory bump stops, or at least just know that, keep that in mind, and don't do any serious wheeling because you can damage those factory shocks. Over here, you're going to have some brake line extension brackets. That's going to eliminate the need for longer brake lines by moving your brake line brackets on the frame down a little bit, essentially giving you a little bit more length. So even if you are off-road and you're flexing, you're not going to pull a brake line taut. Now in the back, these work just fine. Even some of the top lift kits will just include a bracket like this. In the front, I prefer to go with a longer brake line because a bracket like this will force you to straighten out the factory hard line, and I just don't really like doing that. Either way, you are going to want to make sure that you properly extend those brake lines by adding these brackets in place so that you don't pull a brake line taut. Of course, if you do that, you rip a brake line, you're going to lose your brakes on the trail, and that will very quickly end your day. So like I said, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 3 wrenches for installation, 2 to 3 hours. It should take you for this install, but that will vary depending on the tools you have at your disposal and how many lift kits you've installed in the past. You can certainly do this with just a jack stand and hand tools on your back in your driveway. I've installed many lifts that way. You can certainly get it done. It just takes a little bit longer. If you have things like a lift or electric or pneumatic tools, of course things are going to go that much faster. But either way, the steps are going to be very much the same. The first is going to be supporting the Jeep by the frame, removing the tires, and then removing or loosening anything that keeps the axles from completely drooping. That's going to be your sway bar end links, your brake line brackets, your shocks, of course, and your track bars. Once all of that is removed, you can sag the axle down, pull the factory springs out, and put the new springs back in. And as you're reassembling things, you'll go ahead and install your shock extension brackets and your brake line extension brackets. This lift kit comes in at just under $300, which is very inexpensive for a lift kit that includes coil springs. Usually when you're in this price range, you're looking at something that comes with coil spring spacers and not much else. This one does have the springs with it, so that's going to be a benefit to you. I'm not going to say that this lift kit at under $300 is going to perform as well as a lift kit that costs 2, 3, 4 times as much as this. And I don't think you would expect it to either. Like I said in the beginning, I think that where this falls in is a nice starter kit. It's going to allow you to run a set of 33s, and then as you feel out your Jeep on the bigger tires, as you take it off-road or on-road, you see how it handles, how it performs, then you can make small upgrades and changes along the way, so you're not coming out of pocket this huge amount for things that you don't even know if you need. Again, I think that's where this lift kit falls in, and if that's what you're looking for it to do, I think this is a very fair price. So if you're looking for a good starter 2.5-inch lift kit, I definitely recommend this option from Rough Country, and you can find it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.